Hey Dan, welcome to the Cloud Native Coffee Hour. How you doing?
I'm doing very well today. How are you?
I'm great.
Good.
Got the CKAD 100% guaranteed tips and tricks
You know, when we were talking before
and
the
how to
show,
pass.
and you were like, "Hey, you got to put on there 100% guaranteed." I'm like, "Sam, that's a bold statement. The people aren't ready for that, Sam." And he said, "Just do it."
100% guaranteed. Not necessarily the first time, but
That is actually
there's
your
the
trick.
asterisks.
Your trick is to be fearless, Samwise the Brave. Take it until you pass.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, taking it itself is a huge learning experience, so no shame in doing it and failing.
Right.
So, today I think we have a few kind of subtopics around the CCAD. And we're going to start off with what to expect from the CCAD. It gets updated every, I don't know, like 3 times a year, I think, to be however many versions back of Kubernetes. I don't know. And this year, I think back in June, they updated the exam portal. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Some of the changes, what we like, what we don't like.
Sounds good. And
Yeah.
I will be driving, and
Yeah.
maybe tell us a little bit about your recent experience with the CCAD.
Okay, so I mean it's been a couple weeks now, so I've cooled off a bit. We did pass; it wasn't that bad. The exam itself was not that bad. The content was not that bad. The check-in process was garbage.
Okay.
It was awful.
So we're going to get into that. But that's, I think that's some good background for the viewers about your current credibility on the topic.
Yep.
It's very high. And
Yep.
I am at the final stages of studying and preparing. I'm taking it this Friday. And so we'll be able to take a look at some of the study materials that I'm working through and take a look at the exam simulator. Help people out, hopefully.
So this, what you have on your screen, Killer SH, it is updated to be basically one for one what the exam portal is. This is kind of what it looks like now. So it used to be, right. It used to be just in your browser, just like this. Now they have their own browser. Zach's got the thumbs up, so we're good.
Yep.
But you have like a fully remote desktop environment, and that's what Killer SH has now.
Right.
So if you've taken a Kubernetes certification exam before, it will be different. I don't know if it's better or worse. Supposedly there was compatibility issues and whatnot, and that's kind of the driving force of having their own browser and then doing it through the remote desktop like that. I didn't mind too much. I don't know. Have you ran through it once already, right?
I ran through Killer SH. I didn't download their browser yet. Do I have to do that? So here's the exam preparation checklist. I'm pretty sure this is fine to show people.
Pretty
I'm
sure,
showing
yeah.
it. But I didn't see like maybe it's this where you go into
Maybe.
here.
I honestly don't remember because I
Yay.
feel like I downloaded it for the KCNA even. So you might already have it.
Okay.
Because I know you took that too. But whatever. It's quick. It tells you when you go to start your exam, It walks you through. So yeah. That's big, but then along with that there are some other changes to the exam environment itself.
Okay.
Kind of want to go through those.
Let's go through them.
So before, you could have multiple monitors as long as you shared your screens through the test environment in your browser. Now, because it is their own browser, you're only allowed to have that one instance of the PSI browser. Kind of a bummer. So if you have a nice big monitor, try to use that. We'll get into it, but I ended up doing it on my Mac. It was all right. It's not the super small one, so we did okay. Before, you had to only have one extra tab. So, right, you'd have your exam tab, and then you could have one other tab for documentation. Now, and I didn't do this. This is after the fact I learned this. You're allowed to have multiple tabs, multiple browser tabs, and multiple terminal tabs, which I guess I don't remember, but maybe that wasn't a thing. So it's kind of nice. You don't have to like really think about like, oh, if I click on this link, I know, control click and like open it in a new tab, like, are they going to throw a fit? It's like you're not really gaining any advantage by just having more tabs. So seems pretty reasonable.
It does. That seems like something everybody will have available to them if they're doing work on the internet. Multiple browser tabs.
Right.
Some people too many. But one is not enough. There's a happy medium there. So you love to see it. Okay.
Yeah. So another thing kind of related to that PSI browser, before you could have bookmarks. So you could, you're studying and you're like, I can't remember how to create a network policy. So I'm going to bookmark the network policy page. It felt like cheating.
Kind of did.
It seemed wrong, but that was the thing. You can't do it anymore. So don't rely on that. You can still obviously look at all the documentation. So just know how to look up, how do I create a network policy in the Kubernetes docs. Yeah. It seemed like a little much. It's like you already get all the docs. We don't need bookmark stuff.
Good luck. As a GG, if you don't have bookmarks, you got big problems. We're going to teach you today how you don't need them, so don't worry. Hopefully.
For sure. So some of the just straight negative things that are different, there is a bit of lag. It's not crazy, but I noticed it a couple times.
Yeah.
So as long as you're like, I don't know, watching what you're typing and whatnot, it's not a big deal. The self check-in process, I mean, I say it's a negative because I had a really bad experience with it, but they've improved their check-in process. So now you can self check-in. You hold your ID up to the camera, take a little picture, you scan your room, and it gets recorded, sent to a proctor. Stuff that you used to have to like wait for the proctor to join, and then you would show them. So it's kind of nice. You do that ahead of time. It should be quicker. Before you only had 15 minutes to check in, like you had to wait until 15 minutes before. Now you get 30 minutes before. Also nice. My experience went poorly.
Yeah.
Took an hour and 15 minutes to check in.
Yeah.
It was awful.
And kudos to you because you still passed no problem. This is not the first time one of the crew has had check-in problems. And then, but in the past, those people got tilted. And that can be a big problem. And so, heads up, just keep your head on straight. If you have problems, don't get tilted. Just don't. It's not a big deal. And why is it not a big deal?
Well,
because they let you
get a free retake.
Yay!
For one,
That's true.
I was this close to just saying F it. After an hour and 15 minutes, I was so close to just being like, all right, I'm done with my exam.
Yeah.
Thank you. But I was like, I'll just run through it. Like, I've already wasted this much time, Man, I was so upset. I'm a morning person, right? So I schedule my exam for 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Get on at 7:30. Start checking in. It was 8:45 when my exam was released to me.
Maybe the proctor wasn't a morning person, you know?
Maybe should not have been there. I was very upset. I think the exam took me, like, I was done in like hour and 20. So like it almost took as long to check in as it did to take the exam.
That is brutal.
It was real bad.
And like you can't get up and get more water and go to the bathroom.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
It was a problem.
Okay.
I kindly left feedback in the survey afterwards.
So what is the pro tip for solving your check-in issue for next time for others that want to avoid it like me?
Yep. So if you got the Elgato cam or any other camera that just has the fixed depth focus, right? It focuses really well right here. But as soon as I get in, we get fuzzier.
Yeah.
Real good, close, fuzzy. You can zoom in your camera with software. And so when you're checking in, hold your ID way out here, zoom it in, take that picture, make sure it looks really good. I don't actually know why or like what got flagged because I did that. So I don't know what about my self check-in got flagged to like need the proctor's review. But yeah, we spent a lot of time trying to get my ID clear. And eventually I just jumped ship and switched to my laptop, which has a worse camera, but focuses close. So.
Very resilient. So this is good. This is good information for people. Check your camera, check your autofocus, hold your ID up to the thing. I'm not going to use my real ID, but like maybe I have like a library card or something that's Garbo. Nope.
Credit card.
All I got's credit cards, and those will get you far. Sorry. You hate to see that. Do I have something like dumb? No, like insurance cards and stuff. Long story short, make sure you can read it and it's not blurry because that means the other people can read it and it won't be blurry. And they won't think you're trying to pull one over on them like Sam apparently was trying to.
Right.
And have a backup. Like, if you can. Like, you were very fortunate. You thought fast on your feet. You're like, just get on my laptop and log in there. We'll try it again. And it was no problem. That's kind of incredible. So, good job.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the overview for the actual check-in and the changes in the environment.
Okay.
And those are all, any Kubernetes exam that you're taking through the Linux Foundation, or any exam that you're taking through the Linux Foundation, is going to be proctored by PSI.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Questions in the chat. Has anybody else experienced that? Are we the only... I mean, I suppose if you're here watching this stream, and you want 100% guarantee that you're going to pass. I mean, maybe you haven't passed yet, so I don't expect too many. If anybody's dealt with the PSI exam, now would be the time to give us your anecdotes and pro tips. But no, that's good info. I, for one, I'm going to switch to my really old but has good autofocus camera because I've got too good of a camera that that isn't great for reading text off of, I guess. So I'm probably going to do that. I'm going to have I'm considering just going laptop and just doing this last round of prep. Yeah, just on that and calling it a day.
Yeah, and I mean that's a good point. Like when you are studying and prepping, like try to make your environment the same as what you want to do for the test, just to test your equipment.
Definitely, that's just good test taking advice for anybody. Okay.
Yeah. So a couple other I remembered. So I mean you're in this remote desktop. And so you get whatever browser they give you, which is Firefox. So if you're not familiar with Firefox, I don't know, maybe you want to open it once. It's just a browser. I don't actually remember, like before one of the last ones I took, it had like the documentation links that you could use on the left somewhere. I don't know if that's not a thing anymore. I don't remember seeing them though. Yeah, the terminal obviously comes with this too. And I mean, you get this whole desktop environment. So what Dan's doing right now, if you want to open up Mousepad and write some notes, you can totally do that.
Accessories, mousepad, which makes no sense. Like, why do you call this mousepad, please?
Yeah, that's what you put your mouse on.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah, terminal works fine. The only thing is the copy paste into the terminal. Make sure you use Control Shift or Command Shift. Copy paste. And they say that. Also, you can just right click and copy and right click paste as a backup. Like, know if you're having problems, right clicking is probably safer. I don't know. I didn't have any major issues. I did have issues with content copied from Firefox. Like, I was copying some example YAMLs, pasting it into Vim, and the tabs just got all kind of messed up. Even though your vimrc does come pre-configured with some basic settings to try to help with that. I didn't stop in the middle of my exam and try to figure out what was wrong and why that was happening. I just deleted the tabs and hit the space bar a bunch, which was a real bummer. I could have been done a lot quicker if I didn't have to do that. So, I mean, I'm not going to tell you anything that is secret.
Right.
It's all in the curriculum. So you can go look at that. There, everything you need to know is there. It is. So it's the CKAD, right? Application Developer. You're basically just running kubectl commands and editing YAML. That's basically it. So, content-wise, it is all application focused. So if you want to think from that perspective, kind of the resources you're thinking about, deployments, pods, cron job, stateful set, and anything that, your app might interact with. So config maps, secrets. I pull up the curriculum, but a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, let's find the curriculum.
Network policy.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I know you told me network policy's on there, and I was like, no, but you said it's not bad.
It is not bad. So if you go to github/CNCF/curriculum, or just CNCF and then search, boom, right there. Ain't that nice? One of the CKAD.
Boom.
Opens up a nice PDF for you.
Oh. So official. I'll just even drop this in the chat. Watch. Boom.
Nice.
All right, take us through it.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this is a lot of the stuff that I kind of already mentioned. So it's a lot of primitives of just running pods, running deployments, updating deployments. Pretty basic things.
Well, and it is basic, but that's coming from you, CKAD CKAD veteran of 3 years, CKS veteran of 2 years, longtime developer user. If you're not familiar with the primitives, then it's going to feel like it's going to be a little more painful. So we're talking about this pretty confidently because we passed the other stuff.
Right.
And we largely, some of us use kubectl super daily, and others really want to, but we'll get to that later. the things that stand out, a lot of this is pretty. I have some ideas for, what I want to get into is maybe if you're newer and you're approaching this, maybe you are a developer and this is your first certification exam, which I would highly recommend CKAD. It's really good stuff, because if I worked with developers as the administrator, developers that were certified, you'd be my favorite person in the company, hands down. And that's even if Sam works there, and I like Sam a lot. You know,
Right.
you're going to be up there, and you're going to have a really good time working with the platform folks. If you're a developer and you can speak this much kubectl, like you're just going to be right in the pocket. And maybe we can get into that. So I want to go over some how to use the 3 websites they give you.
Yeah.
That's kind of the pro tip I can bring to the table. We can do that later. Once we get through some of this. And this just kind of reminded me, like, hey, multi-container pod design. Not everybody thinks about that. You know, if you're new, you don't really have a ton of, probably don't have experience with having a sidecar or an init container. And I, for one, always had a hard time separating the concepts of a pod from a multi-container pod. It took me like a long time to get, because I have a smooth brain. But once you get that, it's pretty good. You know, and then a lot of this really starts to flow. Multi-container pod design is definitely part of this. Persistent volumes. That's another thing. Thing. Let's keep going. Let's just hit these really quick.
Yeah.
Use Kubernetes primitives to implement common deployment strategies. Blue-green canary. You actually had a story for me about blue-green canary. This isn't nearly as scary as it sounds.
No. Right. Keyword is Kubernetes primitives, so know how to do it.
So it's not like they're going to
with Kubernetes.
It's not like they're going to ask you to, okay, install Istio and use
Right.
canary deployments to filter 3% of all traffic based on the last character of the token.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
I think it's just like, hey, use a Kubernetes service and call it a canary, call it a blue-green, using normal stuff like label selectors, which are the primitives. So, kind of blew my mind thinking about that.
Yeah,
So
well, and
I think it's more
we were
complicated.
talking, and you had a great point. You had a great point where it's like, you know, those complicated, you know, Istio and anything else, they're just taking advantage of those primitives. They're just wrapping it and doing it in a different way. So it's like, oh yeah, they're just doing that under the hood. It's like, yeah, that makes sense.
It's
so
magic.
It's all good to know.
It's magic, right? Until you can see behind the curtain for a second. You're like, oh,
right.
Don't take it for granted that they're doing some nice things for you, because you didn't have to write that automation. But yeah, it is pretty simple, and that's good. The simpler, the better with this stuff. Deployments and rolling updates. We were talking about this. Underutilized is doing a deployment rollout or kubectl rollout against a deployment to kind of cycle pods instead of like deleting pods. You could just cycle them. And then using Helm. I was kind of surprised Helm was on here. I was happy.
I know. Yeah.
Let's see. Let me.
Dota 2 attitude.
Dota 2 attitude. Is this for DevOps? You know, the CKAD isn't necessarily for DevOpsing, but it is for Kubernetesing, and a lot of people will tie those two together. Like if you're using Kubernetes, you probably have DevOps principles or DevOps workflows in your organization, probably. Even if you're not trying, you kind of do.
Right.
So
CKAD being Kubernetes certified Kubernetes Application Developer, I think it's good for people just. I'm not the DevOps guy. It's all right. So I think it's good for people just getting started, like pipeline people. Like if you just want to be a CI/CD pipeline engineer.
Yep.
Like you're going to be doing all those interactions, automating them, with different tools, but it's really good to know the primitives, so you can peek behind that curtain, like Dan said.
And Helm is definitely, if you're an application developer, and Helm, again, just you're up there in my book. Please let me work with you in whatever whatever client I'm working with, please. Let's pop over here. Application Environment Configuration Security. CRDs, yeah, that's a thing. Hopefully there's not too much about CRDs.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Authentication, authorization, admission control. Yeah, that's a thing. RBAC's a thing, I guess. Defining resource requirements, limits, and quotas. If Makita were here, he'd be freaking out right now and going nuts. One of his favorite pastimes, I would say. Thank you for the follow, Dota 2. Attitude. Config maps. You definitely need to be up on config maps if you're designing cloud-native applications. Secrets. You're going to have... Secrets is a whole... Oh my gosh. I posted a great article from one of the Cube Weeklies in the Discord about this. I think Zach and I were talking about it. It is... Secrets are a thing, but you need to understand what they are and what they aren't. Secrets was the only thing I read about as a coder. Interesting. Yeah, and hopefully what you read about it was they're not that secret. It's just kind of a special zone, and it's just base 64 decoded, and then it's not very secret anymore. And then that starts a whole conversation that we're not going to talk about today. Service accounts, that is kind of good to know. Service accounts are basically users. I've learned a lot about this in the last year or two, where this was largely just didn't interact too much with these, but they're amazing. Security context, same thing. What else do we have? API deprecations, probes and health checks. Definitely probes and health checks. If you're an application developer, you're going to want to know this and be super familiar with these. And again, your platform people will love you. They will literally love you as a friend. Use provided tools to monitor Kubernetes applications. I don't know what that's all about. You've got to watch pods or whatever. All right. Getting your logs, also good. Yeah, and you got to learn how to debug. That's kind of the whole thing. Network policies, you've mentioned. Troubleshooting access to applications via services. Yeah, that's using services. That's pretty core and simple. And then ingress rules is where it gets a little more funky, but it's not that big a deal. Yeah, that's a pretty tight scope. I'm confident. Yeah. I'm kind of aiming for your score because I'm somewhat competitive by nature, even though I'm really not. I won't be too disappointed, but give me something to shoot at. And I won't even say what your score was. Just
hopefully you beat it. Hopefully you go for that 100%.
I mean, I have all the advantage of you telling me all the things that went wrong with yours, so I better. I mean, I kind of feel bad if I wouldn't, but we'll kick it back. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today at the Cloud Native Coffee Hour and the special CKAD Study Edition. And we will see you next time.